evening. Welcome to another show of Undiscovered Gems. I'm your host, Charles D. Smith, former New York Knick, and yes, I am wearing my Knicks hat today because there's still the 2026 championship champions, and they're going to be there for another year. So I'm celebrating. And you know what? I celebrate by interviewing champions. And today we have Dara Presley. Dara's been an herbologist for 10 years, but she's got a little tech background. She's been a part of the user experience design for like 20 years, and she's built websites. We're going to get into that transition, but right now, Dara, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charles.
All right,
It's great to be
Dara,
here.
how did you become an herbologist? Tell us.
Yeah, so it actually started because I got sick. I have asthma, but it's usually very well controlled. But I got some kind of flu from traveling, and it went to my lungs, and I got really sick. And
Wow.
after like over a month of having a cough that wouldn't go away, that doctors couldn't kind of solve the problem, I ended up working with, I found this cup of tea in a book on herbalism for lung health, and it solved the problem. It cleared my lungs completely. I mean, it was so bad I was coughing
Wow.
up blood, and so it cleared the cough completely. I got to be off all the pharmaceuticals I was taking, and 4 weeks of drinking the tea, and I was completely back to my normal self. And so that was the start. You know that I should be an herbalist. At least for myself, I didn't know I was going to go to it in a career at that point, but for myself, I was going to be an herbalist. So yeah,
Nice. Nice.
yeah,
And now, being a herbologist, you
hmm
know, the, you know, the United States has a history of trying to eliminate anything all natural for the
yeah,
people and the citizens from the U.S. They did it to the
absolutely.
Chinese with Chinese medicine back in way back when, and we always tend to look down on the all natural remedies because anything else, you're not making money. And those things are print machines, and they're printing machines for money, and they enjoy it. But you, on the other hand,
hmm
you are in a very interesting business because it seems like a lot more people are going that way. Or is it just because I'm my age and they go that way? I don't know. But people are starting to look more into
Yeah,
healthy lifestyles when it comes to their food.
absolutely. I think it's a combination of things. So you're absolutely right on that history. There was a concerted movement to make sure that the medicines that we moved forward with were the medicines that could be capitalized on. And although you could, capitalize on aspirin, you can't capitalize on willow bark. So someone can just go out and get their own willow bark and have what's in aspirin, right? Um, so that was an effort. We're a capitalist society, and unfortunately, sometimes that is to our own detriment. Luckily, there are a lot of people here who still kind of kept in an underground way an herbalist practice moving, and then of course we have, we're citizens of the world, and a lot of the rest of the world
Right,
kept herbalism going, and so we can learn from abroad, and we can learn from those who kind of kept the ways going here.
right.
um, but I think to answer your question about why the pickup, I think that number one, our healthcare system is actually failing. It's really difficult to afford medical care, both, the actual care of seeing the doctor, the cost of insurance, the cost of medicine. So that's complicated. I think the time that doctors actually get to spend with you now that insurance kind of controls their time is not enough to really kind of get to the heart of the problem. And then I
Right.
think a lot of people see a lot of side effects with the medications they take. So that's kind of one
Sure.
pocket. And another pocket is I think that there's just kind of overall questioning. I think COVID really made people think a lot differently, regardless of political spectrum that you're on. It made
Hmm.
people think a lot differently about, we should know more about our bodies.
Yeah.
And in knowing about our bodies, understanding how to care for our bodies, and then naturally, I think thinking about the original medicine starts to come to play.
Cod liver oil.
Yeah.
I remember that. I did not like it. Yeah,
Hmm.
cod liver oil. But so now that you've been able to lay hands on some people and heal them,
Hmm.
a friend of mine lives in uh, Hamden,
Hmm.
and she does massage, and
Yeah.
and so you have these wellness centers now where you
Hmm.
could be a herbologist. You work with the masseuse, um,
Hmm.
tonics and beverages, and uh, all these things for health and wellness centers.
Hmm.
Are you a part of any of them? Would you like to be a part of them? And how does that help out your business?
Absolutely. So at the moment, I'm not a part of them. I do have a
Mm-hmm.
cohort of individuals that I know who are doing these various different things, including, like Reiki is another one, or laying of hands. But I would like to create some kind of consortium where we're working together, because I think that that
Mm-hmm.
gives people kind of a whole care. Um, I love the practice of laying hands, whether you're calling it Reiki, whether you're actually going all the way to massage. I love that practice, but I know personally that's not something that I offer as a gift. um, I don't think people want me to offer that as a gift. Like, I just feel like the laying of hands is something that kind of separates me from
Mm-hmm.
that. But if I was working with someone who was doing that, and then I'm coming in and I'm offering, an herbal protocol, especially both on a spiritual and a physical level, and then we have someone else that's offering, another, say like a nutritionist, et cetera, et cetera. I think that someone can get a whole protocol, and that even includes doctors. More and more doctors are starting to accept that this is something people want to do, and I
Sure.
would encourage people to reach out to their doctor and say, like, hey, I have a team and I'd like you to discuss my care with my team. So, and I think that does, that gives you the best outcome if you have a team working together.
Yeah, it's a bit personal, just a little bit. A little bit.
Yeah.
So you're the founder and CEO of Rooted Wisdom. How did you come up with that
Hmm.
name?
Well, it's interesting. So my first adventure was actually in creating a product company called Sassy Roots, which is still going. But that's where the roots kind of came from. And then I was thinking about, okay, if I want to turn this into a school, if I'm Sassy Roots, then it's okay. It's the rooted wisdom kind of just flows from that. So that's where the
Sassy,
name came from. Yeah.
sassy roots.
And you wouldn't be
Uh,
surprised that my first like topical botanical cosmetic in Sassy Roots is for locks care, for hair loss. So
the question is it still there? And is it open?
it is there. It is there, and I actually just released a new website earlier this month. So I took down everything, and now it's there's only a few of my products there because I'm rebuilding to make it more scoped into a voice and a vision. Before I just had like
Hmm.
anytime I made something, I was like, this is kind of cool. Let me throw it up. And now I really want to like the website to reflect my vision. So
Yeah,
if people come to me for clinical work and there's something that I come up with for them, that's one thing. But the site itself is going to be pretty focused on, a select section of things that kind of, represent, who I am. So yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about your mentor. Who are some of the
Hmm.
people that mentor you today, and are you mentoring anyone?
Yeah, so that's part of the process of the school is to mentor. And so I'm pretty excited. We're just finishing the first year of my program with the students, and so I was able to mentor them, and I'm looking forward to moving into their year two and start to gather a few more students to
Mm-hmm.
take on and mentor.
Yeah.
I had some really great mentors. Karen Rose was obviously the biggest influence on me. She's out in New York. She's an amazing herbalist, an amazing teacher. And then I had a bunch of people that I took like online classes from, but I actually do a call out to Sade Musa as well. Sade doesn't teach as much, or at least I've lost track maybe of her teaching, but she would just show up and do a couple what she called tea turn ups. And in these tea turn ups, she would teach the history of a plant African in origin and talking about how that plant moved from Africa to wherever it is now. And of course, that's movement with the people. So it's actually watching the plant move with us to get to new places, right? So
Hmm.
hibiscus, tamarind, chamomile, etc. And so I loved the series that she did, and I hope she comes back and does more. But she was a big influence early when I was kind of a baby herbalist learning.
Really?
Yeah,
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 that's awesome. I look to one day do the same. But yeah, that can be very gratifying just to do something like that. So tell us a little
hmm
bit about um, what would a client or what should they expect when they come see you? And the client can have any illness
yeah.
whatsoever. That's your calling card? What do you accept?
Yeah. So basically, what's going to happen is it in the beginning, it looks similar to a medical uh, intake in that there's a form you're going to fill out that's just going to tell me some things about you. What it helps if people answer it as honestly and as much as possible, because this is where it does change. With an herbalist, we take our intake is going to take some time. I'm going to sit down and really get to know you. And so the more information you give, the more I can treat you in a holistic manner.
Right,
Um, and then I also include the spiritual portion, because I want to include, you know, I don't want to just heal your body. Like a lot of disease comes from dis-ease, right? So I want to work with, your spirit, your mental health, all that as one movement. And then when we sit down together, we kind of go over the form, talk about the different things, and then talk about your goals. What is it that you want me to actually solve for you? Because I might see a bunch of things, but you might be, that's not important to me, right? Like for
right,
instance, I go to a doctor, doctors hear that I'm asthmatic. The first thing I want to do is help me with my asthma. And I'm like, my asthma is controlled. I've got a great protocol that I keep that in check. I don't have issues with my asthma. And so that's not what I'm coming for, but that's what they always want to help me with, right? Even when I say that up front. So I'm definitely going to be like, what is it that you want to work on? And then after we meet, and I might have suggestions during the session, but then
hmm,
after we meet, I will then put together a protocol for you with some suggestions. And usually I might pick some other things that I saw to add in there just in case, you're interested in doing that. And
right.
then you get to choose what you're gonna do. It's not a force thing. I'm making a recommendation. And then usually there's some checkup to see like just how you're doing. Do we need to make any adjustments? Because the important thing is that I'm matching the herbs to you. I'm matching the protocol to you. I'm even matching the way that you want to take it. If you're a person who likes pills, then we'll work with capsules. If you're like, I hate pills, I don't want to do that. That reminds me too much of allopathic medicines. Then we'll work with teas or tinctures, or maybe there's baths. Like there's different formats that you can be getting your stuff in. And so that's part of the intake, is to find out how you like to work, right? If you're someone who's
Hmm.
always on the go, then me telling you, hey, go drink a cup of tea 4 times a day, that might not be useful, right?
Hmm.
But if you're someone who really kind of needs the meditation time and needs the water intake, then I might be like, actually, a tea is the thing for you. So that's another thing that we work on when we work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You also, when you talk about being an herbalist, we
hmm
didn't go deeper into uh, all herbs. What does what do you think? Because the proper herbs and things that you prescribe are all natural.
hmm
So, what would you take on and give me your synopsis of our healthcare systems today, based on the treatments and the services to the others? I can't
Yeah, I
believe I
mean,
did that. I'm so sorry.
it's okay, it's okay.
It's not cutting off. Jeez, I can't believe this. It's not cutting off.
There you go.
You know what? I will continue, but I'll be willing to do this over because of that. I've never did that before. Just grit my time. We'll finish it, but we're going to do the
Yeah,
show
yeah.
over. All right.
Okay.
So I was talking about, what do you think the state of the healthcare system is today?
Yeah, so I think that the issue is that I, you were starting to ask me the question about the difference between doing the plants versus doing allopathic medicine, and that's what we call when you go to like a medical doctor. It's
Right,
allopathic medicine, and I
right.
think the biggest difference aside from the time that they get to spend with you, is that pharmaceuticals themselves are mass marketed, right? So they do start with plants, by the way. Most medications, like the majority of them, either started as a plant or is synthesized based off of what a plant can do, right? So a good example is quinine. It used to come from the chicona tree. There's a whole colonial thing that we could talk about regarding that tree, but let's not go down that path. But once they figured out how to synthesize quinine, then they made it through synthesis. But still, most medications come from plants. But the issue is that they're mass marketing these medications and versus matching them to you. So when you see at the end of the commercial that list of side effects that can happen,
Yes, yeah. Don't we get
right?
that? Yeah,
Oh, that's terrifying. It's terrifying. I'm like, I know that they hate that they had to do that because you're just like, wait, this depression pill causes depression? Like, I don't get it.
yeah.
But
Right,
what it means is that particular pill, if you experience that side effect, it means that particular pill wasn't really a match for you, right? So it might work for Jane and Tom and Kendra, but for you, that's not a good match. When you're
right.
working with an herbalist, now the same thing could happen if you just go into an herbal apothecary and you pick something off the shelf. Even though it's all natural, it still may not be a match for you, right?
Right.
So you might still have some discomfort that, using that. So when you're working directly with an herbalist, that's part of what they're doing is they're matching your constitution to that. So, for example, looking at the herb cayenne, cayenne's really
Mm-hmm.
hot. If you run hot and dry, then and I said, hey, you should take cayenne, that's going to make you very uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I felt that was something that we really did need to work on with you, then I would have to see, okay, then what are herbs that I could put with that will help then cool you down? So maybe put some marshmallow root with it,
Mm.
right? Or like if I knew you were taking other medications and you were coming to me with some nervousness issues, some anxiety, maybe a little depression, then off the cuff, most people would say, "Oh, St. John's Wort." But I would realize that you're taking other medications, and
Sure.
St. John's Wort is so good at processing the liver that it would process those medications right out of your body. And so that's not a good thing for you because then the medications that you're taking aren't going to work for you, right? So that's part of what's going to happen when you're working with an herbalist and the difference between kind of those two systems.
Yeah, I want to hear what it's like working with you versus anyone
Yeah.
else. Um,
Yeah.
so, has there ever been a time where you actually had to turn a client away, and what would be the reason for that?
I haven't turned anyone away yet. I
Okay,
think the reason would probably be a mismatch in terms of um, what they need and what I can deliver. I like, for instance, I don't work with cancer patients. I think that there are herbalists who work with cancer patients, and there are herbal and natural means for working with cancer,
sure.
but that's not my specialty. And I don't have enough experience working with it. Maybe that'll come in the future, but right now I don't have enough experience or knowledge to work in that area. So I think that that would be a reason that I wouldn't work with someone if I just felt, and I would hope to find something. I wouldn't just be like, no, I'm not working with you. I would, call out to the list of other herbalists that I know and hopefully find somebody that they could work with.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be gratifying because, you know,
Hmm.
a lot of people want to get off prescribed medications. They want to get
Right.
off it and don't know how. So I'm sure you see people with diabetes, blood pressure, all the basic things, cancer, whatever it is. And how do you build their trust to let them
Mm.
think, to allow them to think that they can potentially get healed no matter the circumstance? So they're all in. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But
Right.
what, yeah, what is your take on that? Uh, Being able to produce herbs instead of prescription drugs for people.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too. Usually, unless somebody was raised kind of in an herbalist tradition, usually people come to
Hmm.
an herbalist after they found that the medical establishment has not worked for them, right? They're kind of through with that. So they're kind of ready to go on that course already. But also, I never try to convince somebody to get off their medications. I start trying to support them.
Mm.
And then if they
Mm.
do have a doctor who's willing to come to have a conversation, and that's even better because then we can discuss. And I can say, hey, like doc, they're interested in getting off, whatever they're taking. So if you're asthmatic and you're taking singular, you know, or anything like that, then maybe we can have a conversation about how do we ramp them down from what they're taking and build them up, right? And that's kind of the best way is if we can get the doctor involved. If we can't get the doctor involved or if they've left the doctor for whatever reason, then it's a slow process. It's a slow process. I still think that they need to go and, especially something like diabetes, they still need to go get their blood work checked, right? What we're doing helpful, right?
Hmm.
And then we're going to start probably, working with herbalism is a longer journey. It's, a lot of people, they want to take a pill and be done.
Right.
Herbalism is a process, right? And
And takes a
usually
little
there's some,
longer.
it takes a little longer, and usually there's some lifestyle changes that we ask around that, right? So if you're diabetic, part of what you need to think about is that, the food you eat, everything you eat is a message to your body. So if you're eating something that sends the message to your body that the sugar, your insulin should be doing all kinds of funky things, then that's going to
Hmm.
happen, right?
Right.
And so, so it's not just like, hey, let me put together a protocol of some herbs that will help you support you,
Right.
but it's also like, what other changes do you need to make?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how do you select now? You being an herbalist, I'm just making an
Hmm.
assumption, maybe not. Do you
Yeah.
have a assortment with of herbs on in your office on hand, or do you go out to some of the best places and collect them and put them in your office? How does that work?
Right. Right. So I don't wildcraft for my
Okay.
remedies. I do wildcraft a lot for personal stuff, for my personal remedies. However, I feel that the amount that I usually need to gather could be harmful to the environment if I'm not doing it responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I do purchase, but the great thing is that I can choose who I'm purchasing from, and I choose to work most locally with apothecaries and herbal sellers here,
Sure.
local to me in the state of Washington. Um, and I know that they have really good practices around who they're getting their products from.
Mm.
So it's pretty trustworthy in terms of the plants that are coming in.
Now, were
Yeah.
you one of the people in the grocery store that would read all the ingredients in the back of the box or whatever so you can make sure you stay aligned in your diet and your health? Did you do that?
Well, so I have children who had food allergies, and so we've had to always read the ingredients because of the allergies. And I taught them very young because they would come running, how little kids are in the store. They came running, oh, mommy, I want this. And so I do, okay, let's look at the ingredients. And we read it, and
Ah.
they'd be like, oh, there's tree nuts. I can't have it. I'm like, oh, you can't have it. So even long before I kind of entered the arena of herbalism, I was already looking at the ingredients on the box of food because, having to protect my children and their allergies. So,
Wow.
and then I also developed food allergies myself. So I looked at
Oh,
myself as well. Yeah.
wow. Well, I don't, you mentioned quite a few things when it comes to, you know, the herbs and the pharmaceutical industry. But
Hmm.
now, how do you design a herbal prescription for someone?
Hmm.
Uh, do you look at, because it's herbs? Do you look at their height, their weight, their size, and make your calculations on the herbs they need to take, whatever their illness is? Or can you do the same for someone tall, short, or whatever? You could
Hmm.
do the same for each one. Does it work like that?
I mean, kind of. So basically, we have a kind of standard doses that we would give. So
Okay.
each herb has, if you go and you look for, the monograph of the herb, and anyone who's listening, if you just go look up an herb, if you're like, oh, I'm interested in learning about lemon balm, and you put into YouTube, I mean, not YouTube, but even, well, YouTube too, but Google or whatever search engine, tell me the benefits of lemon balm, you're going to get a lot of like dreck, a lot of slop. So you
Hmm.
actually want to look for like a monograph on lemon balm, because those are put together by people who are writing, who are, who have herbal knowledge that are writing it, right? And so
Hmm.
usually in these monograms, they will actually give you the ways that herb could be, the method of use for that herb and the dosage.
Hmm.
And then the standard dosage they give is usually just for an adult, not elderly, not children, so an adult. And so, that's how you kind of come up with it. So if I said, okay, we're working with lemon balm, then the standard tincture of a lemon balm. So the tincture is where I used alcohol
Hmm.
to extract from the lemon balm the constituents we need to actually help with settling your nerves, right? Um, so with that, then it would be like, a dropper full, like 1 to 2 dropperfuls 4 times a day, right? And then with you, like if I was working directly with you, I'd say, well, let's start there and let's see how that works for you. And if you're feeling like it might be cutting the edge, but I need a little more, then we can go up. So I always try to start on the low side because we can always do more, right?
Hmm.
And then most of the herbs that I work with are also um, a little bit more gentle. It doesn't
Hmm.
mean you can't, I think probably the one that I work on that's the most tricky is lobelia. And so lobelia is something that you could take if you're having like respiratory distress. And it kind of forces your lungs to open. So that for me is my emergency inhaler. I use lobelia if I'm having a lot of trouble breathing in the moment. But if you take too much lobelia, then you can actually it makes you throw up. That's its other purpose, is to make you throw up. So
Oh,
if
I
you're just
see.
trying to like open your lungs and you take a whole bunch and then you end up throwing up, that can get in the way, right? So those are the kinds of things that I want to know, is like how does that plant work? What's the best format for that plant? So like I just talked about a tincture. So let's say I was working with horsetail. So someone's wanting some help with their bones or their joints. Horsetail would be a good herb to work with for that. But horsetail
Mm.
doesn't extract the silica in alcohol. It actually works better in like apple cider vinegar, right?
Mm.
So that's part of like getting to know, okay, so we're going to make a vinegar out of this versus making a tincture out of this. And then with the
Mm.
vinegar, we're going to start. And then with horsetail, you only want to take it for a certain duration and then take a break. And then you could take it for another duration and then take a break. So these are all part and parcel of like really getting to know and understand, that plant that you're working with.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. And with the selection of the herbs, I think is amazing.
Mhm.
But this is what you do. You call out so many herbs like this, and you know what they do for the
Yes.
body. And I think
I never thought I'd
it's
get there
pretty.
actually.
I think it's pretty amazing. It is pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Um, so now, do you at some point want to own your own herbal store? It seems like that's the direction what a lot of people go in. They just want to
Mhm.
consume more and help people more, and you end up having a store or something somewhere. You become a supplier of what you think works really well for people. Do you do anything like that?
Well, like I said, I do have the online store, and and I am looking for partnerships for people who want to partner with the things that I make. Including that I do custom formulary. So if someone's like, "Hey, I'm really interested in doing this particular thing," that is something that I would do. The thing that I want to build though is the school, and the school will probably have a store in it, right? So it'll have a clinic in it, it'll have a store in it. But the thing that I really most want to build is the school. I think that we do need to have a lot more herbalists than we'd have.
Mm-hmm.
And especially what people who are kind of looking at it from that holistic lens, looking from that spiritual lens. I think we don't have enough of that, as well. We have a lot of people who are now learning medical herbalism, And that has its own kind of issues because then you're just like you're using the same system but just putting plants instead. And I don't think that's really right. You actually kind of need to look at what nature is trying to offer and actually work with that. So I think we do need a lot more people who can do that, and also just people who are interested in like I want to learn herbalism just for myself and my family. I don't want to be an herbalist. I just want to learn for myself and my family. And I have that in my school now. We have the Herb Curious level of membership. So the
Hmm.
community platform. So there's an Herb Curious level, and Herb Curious is you get to see the plant monographs and read through them, and you get to come to the workshops, which now I'm having pretty much every month. I have a workshop, and the
Yeah, let's
workshops are
talk
meant to
about
be a
that.
little bit more fun. Yeah,
Yeah, let's
yeah,
talk about that.
absolutely.
You mentor, you do workshops, you mentor. When did you start that?
So I started doing workshops in herbalism probably a year ago. Um, no, it
Hmm.
must have been, yeah, probably a year ago. And I did, a couple like, smaller events, conferences, and things like that in the years prior. But I'm pretty like used to that format because when I was doing user experience design, I was constantly going to conferences and speaking. So I feel comfortable in that medium. It's moving over to a different topic. But I have loved doing the workshops because the workshops get to be a little bit more fun and creative. Last year
Yay.
I did a whole series on making your own natural sodas. So what soda was before it became commercialized, when it was actually a healing tonics, right?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. There's so many beverages. I mean, don't get me started on hibiscus, like
Yeah.
red drink, Big Red, Kool-Aid, whatever. Red drink is a replacement for hibiscus. And if you're drinking that because you feel that's a cultural thing, we drink red drink as a black people,
Sure,
I
sure.
would encourage you to go back to drinking hibiscus because hibiscus is very, very good for you, and Big Red and Kool-Aid is not. So just, you know, that's my
Uh,
little soapbox
yeah,
moment that I'll
yeah,
get on.
no, you're very knowledgeable. That you just dropped
Yeah,
the gem. Very
I
knowledgeable.
just did. I just
Um,
did.
yeah, so our show is coming to a close,
Uh-huh.
and I want to give you an opportunity to, and give the audience an opportunity to just hear what you have to say. What can you tell them
Yeah.
before they leave the show to remember you by, and to remember to give them some of that content?
Yeah, I absolutely feel that, getting to understand how your own body works, listening to your body, hearing, um, what it's doing, listening to your spirit. So not this kind of, sometimes we get into this woo-woo wellness type of thing, but actually going deeper and really understanding, yourself, your spirit, and this vessel that's carrying your spirit through life. And then
Hmm.
being a partner with your medical team in taking care of you. So whether you're talking about a doctor, an herbalist, a massage therapist, whatever. I think that that's something that you need to be a partner, not subordinate to. You have the intelligence about this vehicle, and they have the intelligence about whatever their field is, and that needs to match together. And I would love to teach more people. That's kind of my goal in life. It's just
Sure.
I want to teach, and I feel this is knowledge that everybody should have a fundamental of, and then of course there's got to be more people who are going to do this and spread the word of like, how do we get back to, you know understanding that we are beings that belong to this earth, and this earth has supplied us with all the gifts that we need to
Wow.
to survive.
That's awesome, Dara. Dara, I
Yeah.
thank you for being on the show. You definitely gave us a barrage of undiscovered gems and great work that you're doing, because we really need to take care of our bodies naturally, because we have everything here for it to happen. We
Right.
just don't have the knowledge, and you are one of the people that do. So thanks for spreading the love and the herbs. And again, thank you for dropping the undiscovered gems. Great show, Dara.
Thank you for having me.